fairness, right? I'm going to suggest to you, hand on heart, that it might not be fair to publish everything or to make available everything in Boris Johnson's WhatsApp messages and notebox with colleagues. And part of the reason why I'm thinking that is because Boris Johnson is such an irredeemable fraud. Fraud's not quite the right word. What am I looking for today? Because he is so morally corrupt, because he is so completely morally depraved. So the fact that he now wants it out there suggests to me that it is likely to do damage to people, that he is prepared, the price he is prepared to pay for that is the damage it would do to him, because he is essentially irredeemable now. Whatever his supporters might say. I know, like Trump, you can never rule out some form of electoral return, but the system is different here. And that the level of his malfeasance and immorality has been so completely exposed that I just think that he is probably minded to do more harm than good. This isn't a complete reversal of my position on Tuesday, because not least because you're going to spend the best part of the next hour either telling me I'm right or telling me I'm wrong. But the fact that he wants it all out there when we know that his respect for the truth is entirely non-existent. This is a man who is incapable of telling an unvarnished truth. Every single calculation he has ever made in his entire life, whether personal, professional or political, has been based on one thing and one thing only. What is best for me? In the shortest of short term, what is best for me? What gets me off this particular hook? What wins me the next prize? What is the next item I can guzzle to satisfy my bawdy appetites? What is the single most self-interested thing I can do in this instant, in this nanosecond? That's the key to understanding Boris Johnson. I explained it to you some years ago. And if you didn't believe me then you must certainly believe me now. Every single thing he does is based upon either the immediate gratification of his own largely disgusting appetites, never mind the damage it does to wives, to employers, to constituents, to mistresses, to girlfriends, to children, to family. Never mind the damage it does to politics, to democracy, to integrity. What's best for me? What's best for me in this tiny moment? So yesterday he decided that what's best for him is to publicly call for all of this information to be disclosed to the inquiry, the COVID inquiry, full and unredacted. He might not mean it, but that is what he has said out loud. In that little nanosecond, the answer to the question, what's best for me, is to call for the unredacted release, the unredacted handover of all of his WhatsApp messages and notebooks. And I think this is a moment for us all to de-footballify ourselves. Genuinely. I don't know if we can. I certainly don't know if I can. No, I can't with Johnson or Trump. I mean, they are now so obviously all of the things that some of us said they were. They've proved it beyond anybody's wildest expectations. They're every bit as disgusting and depraved as we feared they would prove to be in power. We know that now. That's not even a debate anymore. That's just counting. But in the bigger picture, can we de-footballify ourselves enough to wonder honestly whether or not there is actually a precedent, a dangerous precedent about to be set if we demand to see everything? Do you need to see the exchanges between the producer and I in order to have a full understanding of what has happened on the radio? Do you need to see all of them? Or do you just need to see the ones that are demonstrably and clearly about what happens on the radio? Do you need to read all of the messages that have been exchanged in moments of high passion? And I mean political passion. I'm not being, I don't mean shenanigans. I mean, like, you are in the eye of a storm and you say things that you wouldn't have said an hour before or an hour after that moment, but you say them in that moment and they don't have a bearing on bigger pictures. The legal demands also include WhatsApp messages sent from Mr. Sunak and other ministers at the start of 2020 as the government responded to the pandemic. And that, I think, is the crucial moment. I'm only asking the question at the moment. I'm not being mealy-mouthed. I think there is a case for discretion, for redaction, but I'm not sure it's a strong enough case. And I've admitted that I find it difficult. If you can, take your scarf off now. Take your Tory scarf or your Labour scarf off and just address directly the question of whether or not it is unreasonable to expect everything to be handed over to the COVID inquiry. It is unreasonable to potentially expose ministers to being judged long after the event for indiscretions or indeed things that happened in the heat of the moment. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm talking myself out of it now, but I'm conscious of footballification. I'm conscious of my deep feelings of dislike towards an awful lot of things that have gone on over the last 13 years, never mind the last 3. I want to know what you think. Is there a case for not handing over everything or all the exchanges between government ministers at the beginning of the COVID outbreak? And I will allow that side order question. I will. And that is, what do you think they've got to hide? And I want to answer that very seriously. I think we got 6 things on our list on Tuesday. I wonder whether that has changed at all. I wonder whether that has moved at all. What do you think they've got to hide? But I mean, there are no silly answers to that question. That's the point. They create this space and whatever, if they won't tell us the truth, then anything can move into the vacuum that is created by the absence of truth. But things that might be unfair. That's the word that underpins this morning's question. Fairness. Is it fair to expect the inquiry to see everything when it could lead to the exposure of regrettable indiscretions that are not germane to the inquiry itself, but would do great reputational damage potentially? I mean, on the one hand, what the hell are they worried about? They've got client journalists in their pocket now to the degree that you barely hear or see a word of criticism in the print media and 80% of broadcast. So I don't know what they're worried about. It's not like Diane Abbott getting a sum wrong and spending the next 10 years being lampooned for it. This lot can do anything they want. They've still got cheerleaders for Boris Johnson in the press, even after all of the disgusting things he's known to have done. So on the one hand, I don't really know what they're worried about, because they're hardly going to be thrown onto a media barbecue by a media that spends its life sucking up to them. But for the rest of us, for the public, for ordinary voters, fairness. Is it fair? Or, of course, should it be for the chair to decide what does and what doesn't see the light of day?